Less than 2 centuries ago, explorers stumbled upon a remote outpost in the Southern Ocean, Macquarie Island. At first glance, it was a wild Eden. Towering grasses waved like walls, giant herbs grew taller than men, elephant seals sprawled across the beaches, and penguin colonies filled the air with sound. But today, the story of this island isn't remembered for its beauty. It's remembered as one of the most shocking ecological disasters in modern history, a cautionary tale of what happens when a handful of uninvited guests spiral into catastrophe. This is the story of the island that time forgot, and how humanity nearly destroyed it. When seal hunters first arrived in the early 1800s, they found a landscape untouched by predators. Birds had evolved here in complete isolation. Petrels built burrows underground, penguins nested in the open, never needing to run or hide. But the island's isolation, the very thing that had protected it for thousands of years, was about to become its greatest weakness. Hidden in the hunter's cargo were tiny stowaways, rats and mice, survivors of long sea voyages, opportunists ready to claim paradise. No one noticed at first, but within decades, the damage was impossible to ignore. The rodent spread quickly. For them, Macquarie was heaven. No predators, endless shelter, and a buffet of defenseless birds. Petrels that had once thrived for generations suddenly faced a nightmare. Eggs were raided, chicks dragged from burrows, even sleeping adults mauled alive. Penguins too became victims, their nesting colonies transformed into feeding grounds for the invaders. And the rats didn't stop at birds. They devoured plants, roots, seeds, and insects, unraveling the threads of an ecosystem that had never evolved to resist them. What began quietly as a few lost rodents had become an ecological assault.
Faced with rats and mice overrunning the island, hunters tried the obvious solution: cats. At first, it looked promising, but the cats didn't stay focused on rodents. They turned their attention to the island's easiest prey: seabirds. The massacre was staggering. Cats killed an estimated 60,000 birds every single year. Entire species vanished forever. The Macquarie Island rail, the island parakeet, and more than 10 seabird species wiped out before scientists could even study them. The plan to fix the problem had only made it worse. Then came another mistake. In 1878, sailors released rabbits on the island, a backup food source in case of shipwreck. But on Macquarie, the rabbits found paradise. By the 1960s, their population had exploded to over 100,000. They devoured everything green. Towering megaherbs vanished. Hillsides collapsed as roots were eaten down to nothing. The lush paradise explorers once described was turning into a barren wasteland. The final blow came in 2006, when erosion triggered by rabbit damage caused a massive landslide. A king penguin colony was buried alive beneath tons of soil. Hundreds died in a single moment. For scientists, it was the breaking point. By the late 20th century, Macquarie Island had become a textbook case of a trophic cascade, a chain reaction where one change in the food web collapses the entire system. Rats hunted birds. Cats hunted birds instead of rats. Rabbits devoured plants. With no vegetation, soil eroded, and hillsides fell. By the 1980s, Macquarie was described by researchers as nothing more than a pretty paddock, a once thriving world reduced to rubble. Something had to be done. In 1985, scientists began a bold campaign: remove every invasive species, no matter the cost. The first target? Cats. Over 15 years, more than 2,400 cats were hunted down. By 2000, the island was cat-free for the first time in nearly 2 centuries. But with the cats gone, the rabbit population exploded again, this time to a staggering 300,000. Hillsides collapsed. Satellite images showed the devastation from space. The lesson was brutal. Partial solutions didn't work. To save the island, every rat, rabbit, and mouse had to go. And so began one of the most ambitious conservation projects in history. In 2010, helicopters blanketed the island with poison baits. Viruses targeted rabbits.
Crews scoured the ground to remove carcasses and prevent secondary poisoning. But the most powerful weapon wasn't poison. It was dogs. 12 specially trained detection dogs, Labradors, Terriers, Spaniels, scoured every corner of the island. They could smell a rat from hundreds of meters away, track a rabbit hidden deep in a burrow, or detect the faintest whiff of mouse droppings. Day after day, they climbed cliffs, searched caves, and patrolled grasslands. In late 2011, a Labrador named Wags made history. She uncovered the last surviving rabbit family on Macquarie Island. It was proof the system worked, but also a reminder of how fragile victory would be. The hunt continued for years. Not one rat, mouse, or rabbit could remain. On April 8, 2014, the announcement came. Macquarie Island was officially declared pest-free. For the first time in over 200 years, no invasive animals lived on the island. The most ambitious eradication project ever attempted had succeeded. But the real question remained: could the island recover? The first signs of recovery came from the soil. Seeds dormant for decades suddenly germinated. Tussock grass sprouted taller than people. Giant herbs reclaimed the landscape. Then came the birds. Blue petrels and gray petrels, missing for decades, returned to nest. White-headed petrel numbers skyrocketed. Penguins carved tunnels through thick new vegetation, building colonies like living highways. The ecosystem wasn't just healing, it was rebounding at a pace no one thought possible. Scientists predicted 30 to 50 years for recovery. Instead, it took less than a decade for life to roar back. Even the rarest plants, orchids once kept alive only in small fenced plots, now spread freely across the island. Today, Macquarie Island is a global symbol of both warning and hope. Its downfall shows how quickly humans can unravel an ecosystem, sometimes with just a few stowaways in a ship's cargo. Its recovery proves that with enough determination, even the worst mistakes can be undone. But the island remains fragile. Every ship that lands is inspected. Cargo is checked. Even pockets are vacuumed to prevent a single rat or mouse from sneaking back. The lesson is clear. Prevention is cheaper than rescue. And so Macquarie Island stands as both a scar and a miracle. A reminder that when we fight for nature, truly fight, recovery isn't just possible, it can be spectacular. So, what shocked you most? The cats hunting seabirds? The rabbits turning paradise into wasteland? Or the dogs and scientists who turned it all around? Macquarie Island proves that humanity can be both the destroyer and the healer. Which side of that story do you want us to be on?